Okay, everybody, hello. Welcome to the presentation. Hello. It is Friday. Well, thank you. Thank you for the glasses. All right, everybody. It is a Friday, and boy, I tell you what, it just seemed. I was talking to the friends the other day, and it seems like it's going so fast, and now it's already Friday. It's like, what happened? What happened? It is flying by, and it's not just me who's saying that. A lot of people are saying the same thing. It's just flying by. It's kind of weird. It's just strange. Very odd. Very odd indeed. Okay. So, folks, I am Bishop Long. I appreciate you all being here. And the books actually arrived pretty quickly. So the books that I wrote, they arrived. They're pretty fast. So, all right. Folks, I'm Bishop Long. If you want to go to my website, you can certainly do so. If you're bored, have nothing else better to do, and you want something to put you to sleep, go to bishopjameslong, LONG.com. bishopjameslong, LONG.com. And you can head over yonder. And I do have books. You might want to purchase every single one of them. So, yeah, just purchase all of them. And I want you to buy all those books. Because before the trolls have to say anything, I'm waiting 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. Fred, don't do that because I'm going to report you and get your account banned. So, Fred, you're a scammer. And I'm going to actually, matter of fact, Fred, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce your account to my TikTok agency. So because they're registered with TikTok, so we can get your account banned for you. There you go. Excellent. There we go. Bye-bye, Fred. Your account will be arrivederci. All right. Purchase all the books. All the books, if you would like, please, because 100% of the profits goes to the MKS Kids Foundation. They're an orphanage that we support. So we have been supporting now for quite some time. We love our MKS. So make sure you head on over yonder and purchase those books. Also, if you want to make a direct donation to the ministry, you can certainly do so. I do finally have a donation. I've been saying I've been wanting to do this. Finally, I have that up there. So you can go to bishopjameslong.com, click on the donations. For those of you who don't know, we do not, in the Old Catholic Church, we do not receive a salary. We do not receive a stipend. I never charged for my ministry ever for 25 years. I've never charged. I pay for it out of my own pocket. And so this is why even the books that I wrote is going to the MKS Kids Foundation. So for those of you who are saying I'm a scammer does things for money. Well, it's kind of difficult to do things for money when you're giving it away. Just saying. Anyway, so I do ministry for 100% free, but Santa Claus doesn't pay the bills. So for me to get to someone's home, I have to pay for it. And that's what I do. And there's a few people, very few people, that help, and I appreciate them. So if you want to go to bishopjameslong.com and click on the donations, that's fine. Keep in mind, no, cats, I'm not referring to you. Friends, I have a lot of chat rooms open right now. TikTok is here, and over here is all the other, I've got tons of chat rooms open. So it's not just bear that in mind. A lot of people think that I'm speaking to a specific, if I'm going to say a specific person, I'll say, hey, you, or something of this nature. That's a general statement. Now, if you want to go to the church's site, you can certainly do so, usocc.org, usocc.org. And we have night prayer coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to join us, you can certainly do so. We would love to have you. And join us. That would be great. That would be great. Now, tonight, folks, we're going to have a very interesting topic, and we're going to get right into it. And the reason being, I asked our friend Willie Windwalker Gibson if he would do us the honor and join us. So Willie is going to be joining us tonight on this evening. Well, there we go, Tammy. Thank you very much. Thank you. Rocking it out there, Mr. Producer. You should see this. So if you want to go to the church's site, usocc.org. Friends, one night of the week, One night for an hour and a half. That's all. One night. There's 7 days in a week. And only one day for an hour and a half, we talk about the paranormal. That's it. So let's not have a cow. It's just an hour and a half, 90 minutes. That's it. And then the rest of the time, we do Bible study. Thank you, Corin. We do Bible study. We do night prayer. That's what we do for the most 90% of the time. So one day a week. That's it. I'm very strict. When we have Bible study, when we have night prayer, we don't talk paranormal. I'm very strict about that. I'm also very strict when we have our one night a week show that's on the paranormal. We focus on the topic at hand because there are people that enjoy Paranormal Friday nights. Okay? Moderators, let me know if people are being rude and it becomes too disrespectful. I'm going to put sub chat on TikTok and I won't give it a second thought. You know how I feel about that. I prefer not to have sub chat on, but if we need to, I will, because we don't do Jerry Springer mentality, stuff here. So I won't pay attention to your rude comments. You'll get no reaction, nothing. The only reaction you'll be blocked. And everyone is welcome here, Bout. Everyone is welcome. But we just ask people be kind. And if you can't be kind, then we will say be blessed and be blocked. So moderators, let me know. And if it gets rude, I'll put sub chat on. We'll be done. Simple. No skin off my nose. I'd rather not, but we will. Hello, Patty. Hope you and Mark doing it well. Okay, absolutely, Sunfish. Let's get into it because we've got a lot to cover and the clock is ticking. All right. So moderators, remember, you got to let me know. Okay. You have to just keep putting it in caps. If we need to put sub chat on, you got to let me know. Here's a question that I want you to sit for a second and think about. There's a lot of this UFO disclosures going on. The movie UFO Disclosure. All the disclosures the government is doing. So when you imagine an alien invasion, come on, everybody has. What do you picture? Be honest. You picture the movies. You picture the big silver saucers parked over New York and London and Tokyo. You picture the laser beams. You Will Smith punching something in the face, and you picture humanity rallying, fighting back, fighting that one weakness, and blowing up the mothership in the final act and rolling the credits over a sunrise. I need you to forget all that. Thank you. Because here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud. And here's the thing the movies never tell you. If a civilization is advanced enough to cross the unimaginable gulf of space and reach us, we do not have a fighting chance. We don't get a final act. We don't get a sunrise. Now think about it, friends. The distance to even the nearest star is so vast that light itself, the fastest thing in the universe, takes more than 4 years to make the trip. Anything that can cross that gap is not 100 years ahead of us. It is not 1,000 years ahead of us. It is so far beyond us that the gap between them and us is roughly between the gap between us and an ant. And here's the part. Here's the part that should really keep you up at night. When you're building a house and you find an anthill in the way, you don't negotiate with the ants. You don't declare war on the ants. You don't even hate the ant. You just pour out concrete. There's also an interesting situation recently where Monsignor Rossetti, who is an exorcist in the Roman Catholic Church, was recently dismissed as an exorcist, I believe in Washington, because he had stated that he believes that aliens are demons. And he was dismissed for this. Why? That seems very odd to me. He's not the only person who said this. There are many people who've said they believe that aliens could in fact be demons, and he was dismissed. Something is very odd. That doesn't make sense. Tonight, we're going to talk about what an alien invasion would actually look like. Not in the Hollywood version, the real version, the one grounded in physics, biology, game theory, the really the hardcore math of the universe, if you will. And we're going to talk about whether there's anything at all that we could do to prepare. And I'll be honest with you here before we start. The answer to the last part is not very comforting. So before we talk about an alien invasion, we have to talk whether about there's anyone out there doing the invading. And I want to walk you through this carefully because the logic of it is actually more unsettling than any monster that I could describe to you. Now, for those of you who are new, I don't answer questions right now. And the reason being because I'm doing a lecture. I put a lot of work into this presentation. I have about 45 pages of notes. So I don't just look at the screen and have you entertain me. We do a lecture here. That's what we do in this platform. I always teach because I think it's logical. Again, we don't do Jerry Springer here. So let me start with the numbers. And I know the numbers can be boring, but just stay with me because these numbers are going to make you really think. Our galaxy, just our galaxy, the Milky Way, contains somewhere between 100 and 400 billion stars, billion with a B. And we now know, thanks to telescopes like Kepler, that most of those stars have planets, multiple planets. The current best estimate is that there are conservatively billions of Earth-like planets just in our galaxy alone. Planets the right distance from their star, the right size, with the potential for liquid water. And here's the part that's interesting. There are roughly 2 trillion other galaxies just in the observable universe. So when you do the math, when you multiply billions of Earth-like worlds by trillions of galaxies, you arrive at a number of clearly the number is so large that the brain can't process it. It's a number with more than 20 zeros in it. And the universe is old, very old. So our planet didn't even form until the universe was already 9 billion years old, which means there were billions of years, billions, for life to arise someplace else. So the famous question really comes in. So a physicist named Enrico Fermi asked in 1950, supposedly over lunch, and he looked at all these numbers all this time and all these worlds, and he asked a simple question. Where is everybody? Because if the universe is this big, this old, and it's full of habitable worlds, well, the galaxy should be teeming with life. It should be loud. The sky should be full of signals and probes and civilizations. And instead, silence, allegedly. So we point to our most sensitive instruments in the sky and we hear nothing. No signals, no structures, no probes, no message, nothing, just the cold, empty hiss. So this is called the Fermi paradox. And here's why I'm telling you about it on a show about alien invasion. Because there are a few possible explanations for the great silence. Possibility 1, we're alone. Maybe life is just unbelievably rare. Maybe Earth is a freak accident, 1 in a trillion fluke, and we are genuinely the only minds in the universe. Now, on the surface, it sounds comforting. No aliens, no invasion. But just sit with that for a second. We're truly alone. In a universe this vast. Possibility 2, they're out there, but they're quiet on purpose. And this should make you a little nervous. This is actually called the dark forest hypothesis. And once you understand it, you'll never look at the night sky the same way again. In other words, the idea goes like this. Imagine the universe as a vast dark forest at night. And in that forest, every civilization is a hunter moving silently between the trees. You can't see the other hunters. You don't know how many there are. You don't know where they are. You don't know if they're friendly or hostile. And you have no way to communicate fast enough to find out. So here's the logic. If you're a hunter in that forest, you suddenly hear a twig snap in the darkness, another civilization announcing itself. What's the safe move? You can't know their intentions. You can't risk that they're hostile, because if they are, and they get to you first, you're gone. And they're thinking the exact same thing about you. See, in the dark forest, the silent ones survive, the loud ones get hunted. And the reason the universe is so quiet, the reason we don't hear anybody, maybe it might be because everybody who is loud is already deceased. Now, let's say something out there. Let's say that somebody heard us. Let's say something is coming. Okay, fine. The natural question is why? Why would they come all this way? And this is where I have to break some bad news to you, because almost everything you've been told about why aliens would invade is wrong, I think. The real reasons are much worse. So let me walk you through the comforting myths first, okay? Well, they want our resources, our water, our gold, our minerals. And you hear this constantly in the movies. They're here for our water. They're here for the strip mine the planet. But here's the problem. It's nonsense. Water is the single most common compound in the universe. It's everywhere. Our own solar system is drowning in it. There are moons out there like Europa and others with more liquid water under their ice than all the oceans on Earth combined. There are comets made of ice. There are entire clouds of water vapor in deep space, larger than our whole solar system. So the same goes for metals and minerals and raw materials. Asteroids are floating mountains of platinum and iron and gold with no gravity wall to climb out of. So if you're an advanced civilization and you want raw materials, the very last place you'd go is the bottom of a deep gravity well on a planet covered in corrosive oxygen atmosphere. There's nothing on Earth materially that they couldn't get 1,000 times more easily someplace else. So that doesn't make sense. The other myth, they'll come to enslave us. They need a labor force. This one falls apart even faster. Think about it. Any civilization capable of interstellar travel has, by definition, mastered automation, robotics, artificial intelligence on a scale we can't even imagine. The idea that they'd cross the galaxy to put humans to work is like you crossing an ocean to recruit a workforce of earthworms. We would be the worst possible labor force. We're fragile. We need specific air, food, temperatures. We get tired. We get sick. We rebel. A self-replicating machine would outwork the entire human species. So that doesn't make sense. Another myth, I believe, is they want to communicate, to share knowledge, to make first contact peacefully. Kumbaya. I want this one to be true. I really do. Maybe it is. But here's the cold logic to this. The gap between us and them would be so enormous that communication wouldn't even mean the same thing. We wouldn't be peers sharing knowledge. We would be the chimpanzees in the zoo. How much do you really learn by talking to a chimpanzee? You observe it, you can study it, you might be fond of it, but you don't sit down and exchange philosophy with it. So if they come to communicate, it's the way we communicate with the lab rat. I'm sorry, but the rat doesn't know it's part of an experiment. What I'm saying is they would be so far advanced. So if it's not resources, it's not slavery, it's not friendship, then what? The planet. It might not be anything on Earth. It might be about Earth, the whole thing. So a planet like ours, with a stable star, magnetic field, liquid water, breathable atmosphere, already terraformed by 3 billion years of life, is staggeringly rare and valuable. Not for what's on it, but for what it is. Real estate, move-in real estate, in a universe where almost every other world is a frozen rock or a boiling hellscape. And if you want the house, you don't keep the termites. The second reason, we're a threat in waiting. In other words, there's the dark forest logic again. It's the coldest reason. It's right now we're harmless to them. We can barely reach our own moon, but we're growing fast. 200 years ago, we were riding horses. Now we have nuclear weapons, satellites, and earthly stirrings of artificial intelligence. Thank you. So project that forward a few hundred years, maybe a few thousand years. A blink, cosmic timescale. We could become a rival, competitor, a threat. So if you're an advanced civilization that has spotted us, the rational move isn't to wait until we're dangerous. The rational move is to deal with us now, while we're still weak, while we can't fight. Not out of malice or out of caution. The same way you'd clear out a wasp nest before it grows, not after. We wouldn't be hated. We'd just be a problem that needs to be solved early. The next reason, possibly, is we are the resource. And this is the one that I genuinely don't like thinking about necessarily. It might not be the gold or the water they want. It might be the one thing on Earth that Earth has that is genuinely almost impossibly rare in the universe. Life itself, biology. A complete functioning 4 billion-year-old library of self-replicating, self-evolving genetic information. Every species, every protein, every strand of DNA, the product of an unbroken experiment that has been running since before the dinosaurs. You can't manufacture that. You can't synthesize 4 billion years of evolution. It can only be grown, and it can only be grown once. And to a sufficiently advanced civilization, Earth might not be a planet to conquer. It might be a specimen to harvest. And we, every single one of us, everyone you love, everyone who's ever lived, we might be the part of that inventory. Now, I'm going to say, I believe that we are here because God gave us life. Obviously, I'm clergy. But what I'm doing is I'm throwing out options for you to think about. And I'll get to your questions later, guys. I promise you. So, what would then an alien invasion look like? And Willie, I think you're watching this. I'm going to probably call you in about 10 more minutes. I'm probably around 8:40 or so. Willie, I think he's watching this, so I'm going to call him around 8:40 so I can finish this here. Okay, so here's the deal. Let's stop talking about the why and start talking about the how. What would it actually look like if it happened? If something came for us, what would the day look like? What would the week? I'm going to walk you through the stages, and I want you to notice something as we go, and I want you to notice how at almost every stage, the most terrifying scenarios are also the quietest ones. Stage 1, quite honestly, you probably wouldn't see it coming. And that is the first, I think that is the first and worst truth. See, the Hollywood image of a giant ship dramatically descending into our atmosphere while the world watches in horror, that's the optimistic version. Because in that version, at least we get a warning. In reality, we probably wouldn't get anything. Our ability to detect objects in deep space is elementary. You know, we found asteroids that could have wiped out an entire city only after they passed us. In 2013, a meteor the size of a house exploded over Russia, injuring 1,000 people. There were no warnings, none. And it came out of the direction of the sun, where we're blind. And the first anyone knew of it was the flash. So imagine something that doesn't want to be seen, something designed for stealth, something black against the black sky, running cold, approaching the blind spot of our own star. We couldn't find it with telescopes. We'd find it when it arrived, and by then it would be too far. I mean, it's too late. Then stage 2. They wouldn't land, not at first, maybe not even ever. See, this is the mistake every movie makes. They always land. They always come down to the surface. You know, we can launch rockets or whatever, but why would they? If you have the power to cross interstellar space, you have the high ground, the ultimate high ground. You're sitting in high orbit and further out looking down on us the way we would look down on a chessboard. Every move we make is visible. Every weapon we have is below you. So every advantage is theirs. So they'd never come down to the gravity well. Why would they? So I think they would stay up there in the dark and the cold, do everything from a distance, which brings me to the part that I find frightening. Stage 3, they might not use any weapons at all. Not the way we think of weapons. See, we picture lasers, explosions, and we picture a war. But you don't go to war with something a million years beneath you. You don't fight ants, you manage them. Let me give you a few scenarios, and I want you to notice how none of them involve a single shot. So, scenario A, the lights will go out. The first you know, it might be that the power goes out. That's it, everywhere, all at once. A sufficiently advanced civilization could disable our entire technological infrastructure in a single silent stroke. And a targeted electromagnetic pulse, or something we don't even have a word for, delivered from orbit, no explosion, no flash, just a device, a pulse. All at once, everything goes dark. And here's the thing that people don't understand about how fragile we are. We are 9 meals away from anarchy. The entire modern world runs on a just-in-time supply chain that depends completely on electricity, computers, refrigeration, communication. Take all that away in an instant, and within 3 days, the city runs out of food. Within a week, the water stops flowing because the water treatment plants need power. Within a month, now you have problems. Within a year, the vast majority of human population is simply gone. Not unalived by aliens, but by the sudden total collapse of everything we need to just stay alive. And the thing in the orbit wouldn't have to do anything else. Just wait. Wait for the noise to stop. Planet to go quiet. Then you have scenario B. The sky will change. So maybe they don't want us. Maybe they just want the planet cleaned of us. Okay. A civilization that can travel between stars can almost certainly manipulate a planet's atmosphere. They could change the composition of our air slowly over months, so gradually we might not even understand what was happening until it's too late. Oxygen level drop, just a little. Temperature shifts. Trace of gas appears that wasn't there before. Start getting sick. Our children start getting sick. Doctors can't find a cure. No invasion, no ships in the sky, just a planet that very quietly stops being able to support the species that lived on it. By the time we figured out what was happening, it's too late. Scenario C, the quiet harvest. And that's one from our resource scenario. In other words, maybe they don't want us all dead. Maybe they want some of us preserved. Imagine waking up one morning to find that a section of the population, a city, a region, simply gone. Not destroyed, not attacked, gone, taken. And then it happens again somewhere else. Quietly, surgical removals. No demands, no communication, no patterns we can understand. And because of them, we're not an enemy to defeat. We're a crop being gathered. Stage 4, there'd be no resistance. Really, not really. I know this is the part where in the movies, humanity unites and fights back. I have to be honest with you because the whole episode is about being honest. Look, there would be no fight. Our entire military, every aircraft, fighter jet, every nuclear missile is designed to fight other humans. It's useless against something that never comes within range, that we can't even detect, that operates on principles of physics we don't understand. And here's the part that almost, I think, is more disturbing than the violence. Faced with something that overwhelmingly powerful, human beings might not even resist. A lot of us might do the opposite. History tells us that when the incomprehensible force arrives, large numbers of people, they don't fight it. They worship it. They try to please it. They turn on each other to curry its favor. They invent religions around it. See, we wouldn't go down fighting, all of us together in glory. No, we go down confused, divided, and terrified. So, that's not good news. Some people say here are some things that you can do. The first and most achievable thing is also the most controversial. It's already too late for it. It's worth understanding. There is a serious ongoing debate in the scientific community about something called METI, Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Not just listening for aliens, but deliberately broadcasting to them, sending powerful, targeted signals saying, here we are. And there's a growing vocal group of serious scientists, including some who have spent their entire life searching for alien life, who are terrified of this. They think it might be the single most dangerous thing our species has ever done. Matter of fact, Stephen Hawking himself, before he passed away, warned us about exactly this. He said that if aliens ever visited us, the outcome would be much as it was when Columbus landed in the Americas, which he pointed out did not turn out very well for Native Americans. So the first preparation, dark forest preparation, is simple to state and almost impossible to enforce. Go quiet. Stop announcing ourselves. Pull our signals in. Become one of the silent hunters instead of the screaming child. Do you know Voyager 2? Voyager 2, they had, I think in the 70s, they had like a record player, basically. And it says, we're Earth, and this is who we are. And, and it's out. As a matter of fact, it's left our solar system. It's interstellar. It's out past our, so it is past our solar system. So people are saying, put it back in. Now, the problem is the signals we've already sent are out there traveling at the speed of light. We can't call them back. So the twig's already snapped, but we could at least stop snapping more of them. The next preparation would become a multi-planet species. In other words, here's a more hopeful one. And it's the reason some very smart, very rich people are so obsessed with going to Mars. The single greatest vulnerability we have is that we're all in one place. Every human being who has ever lived has lived on this one small rock. One catastrophe, one asteroid, supervolcano, one alien orbit, entire species is gone. But if we spread out, colony on Mars, settlements on the moon, Jupiter, outposts scattered across the solar system, then we become much, much harder to eliminate. So you can't pour concrete over the whole anthill if the ants are spread across a dozen anthills that you don't even know about. It wouldn't save people on Earth, no, but it might save the species. Preparation 3, build the ability to actually see them coming. Remember, I told you earlier that our deep space detection is pretty bad. A meteor can sneak up on us from out of the sun. We don't even know it until the window shatters. That's a problem we need to work on. So there is a serious effort underway to build better planetary defense, like telescopes that watch the whole sky, track every object out on the edges, of the solar system, that gives us advance warning of anything. Right now, this is aimed at asteroids, but at the same infrastructure scaled up, the only thing that would ever give us a warning of something deliberately coming our way is something we need. Because here's the brutal truth about defense. You cannot defend against a threat you can't see. Every single thing we do, every shelter we might build, every contingency plan we have depends entirely on having warning, on having time. Right now, we don't barely have any. Preparation 4, you have to harden the species against collapse. What I mean by that, and this is the one that nobody likes to fund because it's not exciting. There's no laser cannon. There's no heroic last stand. Remember what I said earlier. That thing in the orbit might not even need to attack us. Just turn off the lights and that's it. 9 miles away from anarchy, a week from the water stopping, a month from mass death. That part we can actually do something about. What I mean by that, a species that has decentralized food production, local power generation that doesn't all collapse at once, communities that know how to grow food, purify water, survive without the grid, knowledge stored in the ways that survive a blackout, not on servers, but on paper in vaults. Now, it doesn't stop aliens, but it means that if the lights go out, we don't all die in a month. It means some of us are still here. The chilling part really is that almost no one is doing this. Our entire civilization has gotten more fragile. We've become so dependent on technology. Honestly, the way of the Amish is quite logical. Because technology, we are so dependent on technology. Right now, if electricity goes off, if our power grid goes goodbye, people, first of all, would go in extreme shock. Do you know how many people would have such a reaction to not having the internet? I mean, seriously. That would be overwhelming for people, let alone electricity. Internet gone. None. See, I grew up without the internet. So I kind of would know how to tap back into that. But today's kid, I mean, talking about withdrawal, the withdrawal would be intense. Now you have the internet gone, and now electricity is gone. No lights, no air conditioning, no heat. All that is gone. This would be, we have become so dependent on technology that unfortunately it is such an extreme dependence. I don't know if there would be a lot of people who would be able to survive it. Preparation 5, and that's the hardest one, accept what you can't control. This is a real possibility, maybe even a probability, that if truly advanced civilization decided to end us, nothing in the list would matter. Not the silence or the colonies or the telescopes or the bunkers. Against a sufficiently advanced intelligence, all of our preparation of the ant reinforcing the anthill against the falling concrete, and yet we prepare anyway, not because we're guaranteed to win, but because of the alternative. Doing nothing, assuming we're doomed. See, the ants don't know they can't win. They just keep building. And maybe that's the most human thing about us, because, faced with a universe that might be hunting us, faced with odds that are almost certainly hopeless, we still look up, we still build, we still try. Might not be enough, but we still do the best we can. So that's the science, that's the strategy. And this is, I think, quite honestly, here's the deal, in my opinion. If we are visited by this advanced species, we are completely 100% at their mercy. At their mercy. And a lot of people talk about the rapture, and if they think that it would be blamed on aliens, and I've heard that theory before. I saw Disclosure Day, the movie. Thank you very much. And I've got to say, I was not impressed. I was not impressed. To me, it was a, this is just my opinion. I was just let down. Yes, I do. I do, Sherry. And I'm going to do a presentation on that, because I'm teaching about Revelation now. So I will be talking about the rapture. A lot of people say that, it was created in 1890s by John Darby. No, it was not. No, it wasn't. We actually see in the 3rd century people talking about Darby made it very popular, but Darby did not create the rapture. That is absolutely incorrect. We have writings in the 3rd century, which I will present, that clearly talk about the rapture. So Darby made it very popular, but he didn't create it. So if we are going to be if we're going to be visited by an advanced species, the only thing that we could hope for is that this advanced species would also be advanced in ethics. But the problem is this: human beings are advanced. I mean, we build rockets, for goodness sakes. But yet, what we've done, all in the name of science, to other animals, what we've done to animals for cologne and perfume, the animal experimentations that we have done have been nothing but barbaric. When I was at Loyola University, I did a presentation on animal experimentations and the things we did just for perfumes, for cosmetic. And I was appalled. And I will never forget some of the pictures that I saw. It left a terrible memory. I was so upset about what I saw, all in the name of perfume. When I tell you it was barbaric, I don't know. Only a person with no moral conscience could have done what they did. So, if we can do that to a species that is inferior, and I say inferior because I don't believe that they are, but there are other people that would say this. If we can do that to species who live here on Earth, then how much more could they do to us? And that is a fear that I have, that when we are talking about all these alien UAPs and think, okay, what if they are here? Now what? Or the signal that we've sent out, and we've been sending out now, what if that reaches an advanced civilization and they say, well, it's interesting, let's take a look at this. And I think that by in of itself, in my opinion, I think it's terrifying. Because I don't think we have an idea that perhaps maybe could these be these alien life? Could they be at ET? Well, wouldn't that be wonderful? I remember when ET came out in the theaters. So that's how old I am. I loved it. It was a wonderful movie. We all loved it. We fell in love with it. Very angry that human beings went after poor ET. But could it be that species? ET, phone home. Or could it be in the species from, I don't know, the movie that Sigourney Weaver has? What is that movie? That alien movie that she does? Could it be them? Or somewhere in between? Okay. I want to bring Willie Windwalker in. I'm going to call Willie. Yeah, aliens, yeah. I'm going to call Willie on, and let's bring him in, and we're going to talk to Willie and get his perspective on this.
Hey, James.
Well, hey, Willie, how are you doing today, bud?
Good.
Good. Have you been listening into the presentation?
Doing good.
No, have you listened into the presentation? Were you able to watch a little bit of it?
Yeah, I've been watching you.
All right. Well, so I want to talk about this because there's a lot going on here in this particular situation. Friends, for those of you who don't know Willie Windwalker, let me just do a little bit of an I gotta say who he is, tell you all about him and what kind of fantastic human being he is. So Willie Windwalker, he's a shaman. He's a supernatural consultant, member, a highly respected member of the paranormal community. And he has written books. He does animal totem readings. And of course, like I said, he's been around for a long, long time. He's experiencing spiritual visions, encounters at an early age, leading him on a lifelong journey to embrace and explore the innate abilities. And over the years, he's honed in his skills, various shamanic practices, including meditation, energy healing, spiritual counseling, with a particular focus on connecting individuals to their ancestral spirits. Now, he is versatile, engaging speaker. He has appeared on numerous radio and television programs, shares his profound knowledge of spiritual realms, enlightening listeners with stories of angelic beings, powerful healing experiences. In addition, by the way, to his healing practice, Willie is an accomplished author. He's written several books. Highly encourage you to get them. And he's also, which is interesting, he is a UFO contactee. And we're going to talk to him about that because, especially now, there's a lot going on. So, Willie, thanks for your willingness to jump on and say howdy to us. We appreciate that.
Sure, James. Anytime. You know that.
Yeah. So, Willie, tell us, what is the name itself should be self-explanatory, but how would you explain a UFO contactee? How would you explain that?
Well, only what happened to me, James. And I started when I was 10 years old, and I was playing in my backyard, looked up, there was a ship. Next thing I know, there was a flash of light. Next thing I know, it's dark, and I'm standing in my backyard, and I didn't know what happened then. And it took a few more, them coming back and getting me a few more times that I understand what was going on. I mean, I was just a 10-year-old kid when it started.
Do you remember? I mean, have you done any type of like therapy or anything to remember what happened while you were taken?
No, James. I just let it drop. I didn't even tell my dad about it until I started getting memories later on. I would get something that would trigger me, and then I would remember, being in a ship and seeing Greys and seeing Palladians and things like that. That's how it started. And then when I got older, I MUFON wanted me to do counseling with other abductees, and I was doing that for a while until I started getting harassed by the government, and so I stopped it. So I went from there, and I talked to people like Stanton Friedman and all those. I've met Stanton Friedman, my shaman and I, my wife, and he talked to us and said, there are those of us that are all in the same boat, and we're here for a reason. When this thing happens, when they do start contacting us, it'll be people like me that will come on and start talking about our experiences and what to expect.
Do you think, Willie? Now, I don't know if you heard about this, but there was a Roman Catholic exorcist. He was a Monsignor, and the diocese actually fired him as an exorcist because he stated in an interview that he believes it's possible that these aliens are actually demons. So, what's your perspective on that?
Well, James, you told us a lot, and we read it in the Bible and all this. Demons are fallen angels, and demons can possess anything. So why couldn't they possess another species?
Now, you talk also about, I know that you started hearing and seeing spirits but for those of you who don't know, Willie is a shaman. He is a devout Christian as well. I want to make that very clear. So let's make that, my grandmother was Cherokee. She was Native American, and so she was a shaman. So my grandfather was a Cherokee. So we respect our indigenous friends. Now, I know that you started hearing and seeing spirits at the age of 10. When did you begin to understand that you were a shaman?
Well, I was telling my dad what was going on with me. I was seeing, hearing things, and he understood what was going on because he had the same ability, and he would tell me what was going on and about spirituality, and he would take me around to funeral homes and show me what death was like, and tell me what death was like. And I would go around to these funeral homes with him, James. I've told you this a lot of times before, and I could see the person that's in the casket standing over in the corner, and I would ask him about it. He said, I know, I see him too. This is what we're going to do. And we did a little ceremony and things, and then we would leave. So my dad started that, and to get me used to it. And as I grew older, and it wasn't until I was in my 30s, and I started going and practicing with other shamans, and they started showing me what to do, the ability, what a shaman can do. And I had many teachers, and I learned stuff every day. But a shaman has to think outside the box when they do stuff. I mean, we can't treat things like you do. I mean, you have a certain way of doing an exorcism where we might go do something like that, and then, a year later we might have to go do the same type of thing, but use a different type of routine. So, that's how I learned to be a shaman.
Willie, what do you think about all this issue with the UFO disclosures, with the government releasing some files that used to be obviously highly confidential, and now all of a sudden they're being released? What do you think is going on personally?
James, we've talked about this before, just between you and me. They're already here. We have aliens inhabiting the earth right now, different species. You're talking about, I listened to you, what you had a while ago, and a lot of it makes sense, and it could happen, but what people don't realize, we got people, other species living here already, and this is their home, and if they're endangered, they're going to fight back. So people don't realize we have species here that has technology here that they can fight back if we are attacked.
Who, they would, or we, or what do you mean?
They would fight with us. They would fight for us. This is their planet too.
Oh, so other species you're saying?
Yeah. There are other species here, James, that have technology, and if they have, they can bring that forward and help us defend this planet.
So you think there are advanced civilization here on Earth already that's basically working with us?
Yes, they are.
And where do you think that they are?
James, they're in different locations. They're under the sea. They're in mountains. They are above us in cloaked ships. They're there, but we can't see them. Okay. There was a time where me and Shaman was in the car. We were driving down a highway, and one appeared right in front of us, and decloaked and cloaked back up within 10 seconds. This so we could see them. So they've been in contact with me since I was a kid, and they're making themselves known, to different people. I believe the government knows about all this and the bases and things like that. That's why the disclosure came out, because I think they've gone to the government and say, hey, it's time people know about us, and you'll either come and do it on your own, or we'll just show up and show them.
And keep in mind, for those of you just tuning in, I'm Bishop Long. We're talking, we're just brought in our friend, Willie Windwalker Gibson. So we appreciate questions. And remember, TikTok, if we're not kind, I will put sub chat on for the rest of the night. Have the chat open for everybody. So this is a conversation where we're discussing something, obviously, that is being addressed by lawmakers. I think we have to be very careful, because many times people want to just immediately dismiss this. I don't think you can. No, I know you can't, because there are highly ranked former military officers who have testified in front of Congress that there are these ships, there are these UFOs. Matter of fact, there was an admiral, my goodness, he went and he testified that they know for a fact that they have even these biologies or these other species, basically, that they have bodies, the alien bodies. They testify to this in Congress. Now, these are high-ranking officials. These are not just conspiracy theorists on a late-night radio show. These are people who are either currently in the military or they are retired high-ranking officers who worked in highly secretive experiments or programs that have testified in front of Congress. You got to understand that's very important, because if they lie, then they can be charged with this and they can go to prison for this. So they testified. So they have shown they have shown so much. That's the thing that people got to understand. The people that are testifying in front of Congress, they have nothing to gain. They're being protected by whistleblower laws, but these are people who are advanced military officers. These are not opinions. They are, matter of fact, they've even testified that these, whatever they are, these aircrafts are going so fast that our technology that we have currently can't keep up with them. And even then, they go into the ocean and come back out. And we have a hard time even keeping track with them. The most advanced technology in the world, we struggle keeping up with it. That's not a water balloon, or it's not a weather balloon, or it's not a drone, for goodness sakes. People say, what's a drone? It goes into the ocean and comes back out. And our military, our F-16s, we struggle with keeping up with these. So can't come up here and say that these are drones. That's absurd. Well, let me ask you, Willie, when you think of aliens or abductions, how do you interpret them through Christianity? Are they spiritual beings? Are they something else? Are a different category? What do you say?
Well, spiritual, in the way we think of angels and things like that, James, they're not. I think they are just creatures that were, a lot of us, like I said, they're cohabitating with us, and they're showing us things. They're showing us how are back engineering things. We got friendly aliens on Earth. Now, And that's why a lot of our technology has come forward like it has. I mean, the stealth bomber and all that kind of stuff that came from alien technology.
Yep.
And they've been working with our scientists for years.
Folks, let me just make this very clear. There have been credible military veterans, again, and intelligent officers who have testified to Congress that the U.S. government operates secret reverse engineering programs, and they actually possess craft of non-human origin. This is not a conspiracy theory. For example, David Grush, he was a former Air Force intelligence officer. He was a representative of the Pentagon's UAP task force. He testified that the United States government possesses intact or partially intact craft of non-human origin is concealing a multi-decade crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. Again, this is an Air Force intelligence officer who represented the Pentagon's UAP task force. David Fravor, he was a former U.S. Navy commander, a decorated fighter pilot, and he testified about his 2004 encounter with the Tic Tac UAP, that's unidentified aerial phenomena, detailing how the object displayed physics, defying maneuvers, and speeds far beyond any human technology. Ryan Graves, a former Navy fighter pilot, testified alongside Fravor, and he shared firsthand accounts of unexplainable objects regularly tracked on military sensors, noting that these objects operated with advanced capabilities off the East Coast. Luis Elizondo, a former senior Department of Defense intelligence officer, testified about his role running the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And he stated that the government possesses exotic materials and has engaged in secretive global arms race regarding the technology. There's Dr. Tim Gallaudet, a former Navy Rear Admiral, and he testified about firsthand experiences seeing unidentified objects during naval exercises and advocated for much higher transparency regarding the national security threats that these objects may pose. I come with receipts. Trolls come with, I don't believe it. Well, I just gave you now multiple highly intelligent officers, either in the Pentagon or in the former Air Force intelligence officers, who have testified in Congress that they know for a fact that the United States is concealing multi-decade crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs, and that we actually have bodies. We've retrieved bodies of alien beings. They testified this in front of Congress. You can't dismiss that. That's not conspiracy. That's fact. And I think when you have people that are very credible who testify in front of Congress that the United States government has this secretive program and they are saying we need now transparency, I think now we can't just say, well, that's all conspiracy. Conspiracy is, I have an idea, I think this is happening. No, we have people who would know if it was happening. That's a problem. To me, it is a problem. And the reason is because these civilizations have to be so far advanced that they can choose to use their technology for good, and they can also use it, have their technology for bad. And we wouldn't have a chance. We wouldn't have a chance. Willie, let me ask you this. You talk about being abducted. Do you remember because I know there's multiple abduction cases you've experienced. Do you remember any of the abductions, or do you just remember that the time lapse and that's all?
Well, I'm starting to remember, James. I think it's the time frame that they told me about way back when, that when they didn't tell me, they would abduct me, and then they would say, we will know in time, and they would tell me things, but I would forget them. And now that things are starting to come forward, with the disclosure and everything, memories has been popping up like the last 5-6 years of being inside a ship and sitting there, and they're showing me like movies, of things that's happening, was going to happen in the future and things like that. Things that already came to pass. They showed me, and I remembered it. They actually showed me the towers coming down back when I was a kid. I don't know why they didn't stop it. I guess they have a rule that they don't want to interfere with our civilization right now. But I remember seeing that when I was a kid. It wasn't a vision. It was a memory of being sat down and shown things. I remember tall beings with blonde hair and like silver outfits on, silver jumpsuits on. I remember the Greys. Oh, and I during my different abductions, and Shaman was even abducted too. I've even caught Greys in my room, putting her back to bed. And all this is coming back to memories are coming back. I'm not making all this up because I've actually sent you things that I've told you ahead of time, and other people have seen it too, like bullet trains under the ground and different bases and things like that. People are coming out and saying the same thing now, which I've seen as a kid growing up and all through my adult life.
Here's the problem that I have with this whole alien talk, UAPs, the possibility of their existence. I mean, obviously, I have to take. The thing is if this was all just opinion, then it's just a fun, entertaining show. Okay, on a Friday night, turn the lights off and let's get spooky, whatever it might be. But the problem is I've just gave very clear facts about advanced military officers who have testified in front of Congress that they have seen these things, that we have these craft, we have the bodies, some alive, some not. They've testified in Congress. So my problem is I don't think we're talking about conspiracy theory. I don't think we're talking about theory anymore. I think we're talking about reality. My problem that I have with this whole thing is the abductions, because there have been many cases where people have claimed to have been abducted and it was not a good experience. Now, there are some people who claim that it was. I've talked to people who claim that they were abducted and they said it wasn't a terrifying experience. I'm not really sure how it wouldn't have been terrifying. I don't think I would like that. But Willie, my concern is, what about the abductions that are very intrusive, aggressive, that are not, well, wasn't that a nice experience? What about that? That's why some people think that this, in fact, could be demonic in nature. What are your thoughts?
Well, James, there was a story about Eisenhower meeting with aliens back in the 40s and making a deal with them, for their technology. They can abduct people and use them for experiments and things like that. They could be doing that, I think so, for checking out the DNA and all that, maybe crossbreeding with us. But I can remember one time that when I was abducted, this was with an experience I had with the Greys, where I was in a room like with a table on it, and I was on a table, and I can remember needles coming down from the ceiling, and I can remember things, like going in my belly and stuff like that. And if it's demonic, I think it's that part of it was just they're just trying to find out what we're made of and stuff like that, if they can crossbreed with us. Like I said, we know that demons are fallen angels, and we know that demons can take other forms and possess people, and they could do the same thing with aliens too. So, I just don't know either way. But I have experienced being abducted and being checked over, and I also remember, but it was a different species. And then when I met with the more people that looked more like us, they were friendly, and I know for a fact that there's bases on this planet that's got aliens in them, and I truly believe that they've gone to the military now. So it's time for people to know about us, because I think they know something's on the way. I think the aliens that are here know something's on the way, and they're gonna have to come out and show themselves to us to fight whatever's coming on. Because you're right, we don't have the technology to fight these things, and the aliens that have made bases on this planet is not going to allow something to come in and destroy what they build up. They're not. This is home to them. This is like them going to another planet and inhabiting it, like you said, and to save their species. I think that's what's going on here too. So I really think that when the time comes, they're going to have to make themselves known to us, and they're trying to ease the message into the public now, so we won't be so shocked or we won't panic or anything. We're going to know that they're the ones that are here to help us.
Yes, and no, Lacopo, I don't charge. I'm not charged. I've never charged for 25 years. I do ministry 100% free, but it's not free because someone has to pay the bills, and that means that I've paid the bills for 25 years. So now, Willie, here's the question that I have for you then. So your argument, you think that aliens, they exist here, these species here, they are not cruel, they are not mean, and that you think that it's the reason that we're having all these UAPs and these disclosures is because you believe perhaps there is a species that is coming to the earth and that we will need this advanced civilization who's currently living with us to help us fight this advanced species. Is that what you're saying?
That's right, James. Whether people believe me or not, there is a federation out there of species that will help us. They're peaceful. They do not want the earth destroyed.
All right. And do we have an idea? Would you have an idea of when you think this is actually this galactic war, if you will? And I've heard this theory before. To be fair, I've heard this theory from quite a few people who are in this field. And Mr. Producer is really heavily involved in this field as well. He's very, very interested in the UFOs and alien species, and he does quite a bit of conversation, speaking to people who are really involved in the community. And so you believe that this, do you believe this is something that's going to have relatively soon? Is that why you think now all of a sudden there's this push for creating this? They're here, and this is why they're here?
Yeah, that's why, James. I really do. They're making themselves known. They have the technology. And if you look at some of the cave drawings or some of the things from the past, I think even the Bible says something about there have been other battles in the past. So you could tell through the paintings and things that they were having battles up in the air, different crafts and things. So they've been fighting for us for centuries, maybe thousands of years.
Now, I've heard that the several type of alleged species that these aliens exist in. I've heard most of us have all heard about the Greys. Internet. That's weird. Strange. It seems like the Greys are very, very popular as far as the abductions. So we have the Greys, the small 4 or 5 feet looking with big eyes and the big head. Then you have what's called the Nordics. The Nordics are tall. They're tall. They look very much like us. They eyes are the blonde hair, very pale. The Pleiadians. Then you have, of course, the reptilians, considered malevolent. The mantis, the insectoids, allegedly, and then the hybrids. The hybrids look just like a human being. I mean, it's almost nearly impossible to detect. Would you say that's about right, or do you think that there are other species that we don't know?
That and more, James.
Here's the issue that I have with this whole thing. Now, from then a clergy's perspective, my question would be, and I'm sure people out there who are watching this are thinking the same thing, where does God fit in all this?
James, this is how I look at God made everything. So that's how I look at it. Will He intercede? I don't know. I just don't know. But I'm just trying to say that there are aliens here on Earth, and they've been here for years, and they're hidden, and they know something's big's going to happen. So that's why they're coming out and kind of making themselves more visible, with the UAPs and all this kind of stuff. And now you can see if any kind of a flying saucer or whatever over, and it's like nothing now. People are getting used to it, and I think that's what they're trying to do. And I'm really interested to know what God has in mind. If they're going to be working with God or for God or whatever, but I do know that God made everything, so it's like a mystery, to that part of it.
Now, so let me ask you this: when you think of aliens, you think of UFOs. Do you believe that the United States, that the military, actually has bodies, alien life that we've retrieved? And do you believe that we actually we have the spacecraft like alien Area 51 or the Roswell? Let's ask that. One, do you think Roswell was legitimate? And two, do you think we actually retrieved alien bodies, the Greys, and aircraft?
Yes, I do, James. I mean, they've got bases not only in Area 51, which I think that's being shut down a little bit now. There's bases in Utah, all over the Southwest, and even other places too, inside mountains and things. Because I've been in places like that when they come and got me, and I did it. We talked about this on the other show we did. I've actually been in places where I've actually seen trains underneath the ground that brings people back and forth, and scientists and things. I've seen laboratories set up with big cylinders in them that look like creatures in those, like humanoid.
Wait. What do you mean you've seen them? When have you seen them?
One time, quite a few times when I've been taken, they have actually took me to places like that and showed me the underground bases, and I've seen the cylinders for people, like not exactly people. I don't know if they're making people or they're trying to do something with the DNA or something. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of things going on in the scientific world that people don't know about.
Okay, so my question: what do you believe then is the purpose of abduction?
James, I think they're taking DNA from people. I really do, because when the times that I were taken and brought back, I've seen different. I told you that there was a green fluid in the bed with me. Shaman had green fluid all over her face where whatever they did to us. So I think they're doing it to take samples of DNA from people.
And as far as, let's talk about communication then. So when you had your cases, when you had your experience, was there any form of communication, or was it all telepathy?
Well, telepathy more, James, because when the Nordics or the Palladians came, they really didn't talk to me with their mouths. I mean, I knew what they were saying, but by memory, or it was coming through thought transference. And I wasn't scared or anything. It was like I was going to school or something. I would sit down and listen to what they had to say and what they had to show me.
And again, for those of you just tuning in, I'm Bishop Long. This is our Paranormal Friday. This is one day a week for only an hour and a half where we talk the paranormal. And we always do a presentation, a topic on the paranormal. We're bringing on our friend Willie Windwalker Gibson. He's a shaman, been in the paranormal field for over 50 years. Just highly respected, been on a lot of television shows, a lot of radio shows. He's a respected shaman. And see Jason McLeod, he's there in the chat room. Jason, welcome. So glad to see you.
I've met Jason.
Yeah, Jason is a fantastic. He fought cancer and beat its butt. And by the way, you need to make sure you get Dark Siege by Dark Siege. If you haven't done it, you need to do it. Jason McLeod actually worked with the Warrens, so he knew them very well. And Dark Siege is a phenomenal. The books, you got to get them. Go to www.darksiege.com. Got to get that now. I'll tell you what, they're wonderful. Now, Willie, let me ask you this. There are skeptics, and that's okay to be a skeptic. That's all right. Dark Siege. Yep, Dark Siege. So here's the question that I have for you, Willie. What is the best evidence, the strongest part of your case, if you will, what that clearly demonstrates that you were abducted? What would be the strongest evidence to say this is what I experienced, and that's the strongest argument for my case? That way, for people who might be skeptical rather, they would, scratch their head and say, well, maybe there's something else to this.
Well, James, that's come up before. How can you prove this really happened?
Yep.
The times that I've actually took samples and things and sent them off to be studied and stuff, they miraculously disappeared. Wow. And I did. Shaman had an implant, and when she went on, it was still in her. And mine about a couple of years ago. So I always had an implant at the base of my neck, and the area got bigger and bigger one time, and it got about the size of an egg. And then I got rushed to the hospital, and they took me in an emergency room, and they went on ahead and do like minor surgery on me. When they opened me up, all kinds of stuff flew out that they didn't know what the heck it was, and it was organic. But I kind of think that the implant that I had actually destroyed itself for some reason. But that's the only thing that I had that I could prove, and the samples that I've sent off. But all I got is my memories, and people believe me fine, if not fine. But a lot of the stuff that I have said, other people say it too. I mean, they have the same experience, and they describe the same things that I do. Because I've been with a group called the Starborn Support Group, and we're a group of people that's had abductees, other abductees, and we have basically the same story. The Hewlin sisters run it, and we kind of counsel each other because we don't have anybody else that believes us. Oh, this happened to you? Yeah, well, this happened to me, and this what area and all that. So we kind of talk back and forth to each other as counseling each other, but all I've got is what I tell people, and if they believe me, fine. If they don't, fine. But, this really happened because it's been going on for 60 years, and that's why I became a shaman, because I don't only deal with that. I deal with cryptics and other things and spirits, and, I've ran in and have had demonic cases, which you've sent me out on cases, so that's what made me who I am today.
One of the things that is alarming to me, and this was the next thing that I wanted to talk about on the notes, there is a list of missing and deceased high-ranking scientists that have just some of them have just disappeared. Monica Reza, she was a 60-year-old NASA jet propulsion laboratory materials scientist, vanished June 22nd, 2025. Melissa Casillas, she is 53 years old, administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory, went missing June 26, 2025. Her remains were found in the Carson National Forest roughly a year later. Anthony Chavez, he was a 79-year-old retired Los Alamos National Laboratory construction foreman, walked away from his New Mexico home in May 2025, has not been seen since. William Neil McCaslin, he was a retired Air Force Major General with a background in aerospace who walked out of his Albuquerque home, February 2026. Stephen Garcia, 48-year-old government contractor at the Kansas City National Security Campus who disappeared August 2025. It goes on. Why are these scientists disappearing? Something is very strange. Well, Willie, do you have any idea about what do you think is going on?
Well, James, I've told this story before. I had an encounter group back in the 90s. And I was doing pretty good with them, and I had 30, 40 people in the group, and they were telling me things. And until one day, a military guy walks in. I knew he was military. He was military, and then he was kind of filling us out, and I kind of pissed him off, and he left. And after that, I started getting harassment, phone calls, and I started seeing strange vehicles up and down my street. They would follow me. They'd run me off the street, rode with me and Shaman, and a lot of people around me were coming up hurt or undead,
Wow.
unalive, and I just decided to back off, and I just, until now, with this disclosure thing came out, and I said to myself, well, you know what? If they're gonna come out with this, I'm going to start talking more about what happened to me and Shaman back in the day. And of course, I've talked to you in private about it a lot of times. Right. But now, things are coming out to where people can start talking more. A lot of these scientists are coming out. The military's coming out and talking about what they've done and what they've seen. And I'm going to do it too. I mean, I haven't gotten any threats or anything now since I've been on. I've been on a couple of shows talking about this. So I think a lot of it's, I don't know if the deal with these people being found or missing, I don't know if they came and got them and took them back to the underground bases or what. But I just don't know what's going on, James. But I do know that I'm going to start talking more about it.
Good for you. And one of the things is, I mean, it would be interesting if you were to find a hypnotherapist that's actually legit, and they could actually walk you through your experience and unlock perhaps maybe your experience when you're. How many times would you say that you were probably abducted?
Oh, James, since the age of 10, I don't know,
Wow.
maybe 100.
That would be. I mean, if anyone is a hypnotherapist, would you ever consider doing this and actually going into hypnotherapy to try to figure out maybe some of the things you don't remember?
I wouldn't be afraid because it happened. So
yeah. So if anybody's a hypnotherapist out there, reach out to me. Reach out to Willie, and boy, that would be phenomenal to try to be able to tap into maybe what you experienced. I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing too, because your brain might purposely, blocking you from bringing this into the conscious because it could have been quite terrifying. We just simply don't know. And that's the scary part. Now, do you teach people how they can be a UFO contactee, or is that just something that they have to choose?
Well, if they want to talk about it, they can always get on here and contact me on Facebook, Willie Gibson. I'll talk to them about it. That's more. That's the main thing. They just want to talk to people about it.
Okay, and so if you want to contact Willie, yep. So Willie has a Facebook. You can go and type in Willie Windwalker Gibson on Facebook and send him a message. You can also, of course, now, do you still have that old AOL email? You probably do, don't you?
CrystalChief55 at AOL.com.
Yep, Crystal Chief. I have it. Yeah, CrystalChief55 at AOL.com. CrystalChief55 at AOL.com. And tell everybody your books, Willie.
On Amazon, I got the Shaman Windwalker and the Soul Warriors. And I've got one in the works.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's very good. So everybody, if you want to email Willie, CrystalChief55 at AOL.com. You can also find him on Facebook and, of course, go to Amazon to pick up his book. And Jason says, Willie, we need to talk too. So Jason McLeod wants to reach out to you and chat with you. That'd be a fantastic connection. So
cool.
Willie, thank you so much for jumping on and chatting with us. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your experience, and we look forward to having you on again real soon. Thank you.
Okay, James, anytime.
Thanks, Willie. Have a good day.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, that's our Willie Windwalker Gibson. He's a good friend of ours. I've known him for a long, long time. Here's the thing about Willie. Willie is the type of person, he's a no-nonsense type of guy. If Willie tells you, he used to be a police officer. If Willie tells you that he experienced something, he experienced something. He's not there's no ulterior motive with Willie, ever. I mean, he's just one of those straight arrow kind of guys. And that's what I've always liked about Willie. I've always admired that. And one of the things, when I first met him many, many years ago, he had one of those online, on cable television, they had those shows where you can, go, I forgot what they're called, but they're the regular, the public can go on and do their little shows or do whatever they want. And so he used to do that. He and his wife used to have their own show on cable access show. There you go. Cable access show. So they used to have this show, and many years, that's when I first met him. And I thought, I wonder if this guy's legitimate, you know. Well, let me I just want to observe. And I'll never forget it. I've talked about this before. He kind of reminded me of my grandfather. Because what I mean by that, by the way he responded and the way he behaved, his wife, Shaman, God rest her soul, she had injured her foot. And so she needed a wheelchair at that time because she injured her foot. And Willie was very careful. After the show was over, he was incredibly attentive to all of her needs, making sure she didn't rush to, making sure it was just, I thought, no, that's a good guy. That is a good guy right there. Because, I mean, he wouldn't do a show without her. And I don't know, he was just one of those guys that I thought, that's a pretty cool cat. So when I saw that, I thought, I like this guy. I like this guy. Oh gosh, he's 70, I think. Yeah. I think he is. Let's see. I think he's in his 70s. Yep, 70 years old. That's what I thought. So he's like I said, a fantastic guy. Just a fantastic, and we appreciate him being here. But it is interesting with this whole alien, with all this disclosure, the government disclosures, you kind of just scratch your head and just kind of wonder, what's this all about? What's going on? Many times when the government tries to soften, if you will, soften the blow, it's like a drip, drip, drip of information, not all at once, but almost to get you acclimated to where you're like, okay, whatever. And it seems like that something like that is occurring. Why? I don't know. What's the point? Could it be that there's some intergalactic issues? I don't know. But here's what I do know. I know that there are people, as I mentioned, I gave you the names, who are incredibly gifted, intelligent, and they have no ulterior motives. They've testified in front of Congress. These were high-ranking military officers. And I think when people like that testify, that to me, I pay attention to that. So we're talking about former Navy pilots. Folks, when you're a pilot, you're taught to observe everything. It's very logical. It's very methodical. Everything you do is methodical. So that they're not fighter pilots. They control the emotion. They're focused, laser focused. And when they testify, people who are in the cockpit of the best machines in the world, the most advanced technology in the world, and when they testify in front of Congress stating that there are things in the sky that they had trouble making contact with their radars, or that makes me concerned. Because for me, when that happens, that tells me, okay, they're pretty advanced. And it also gives me an indicator that this is not just fairy tale. This is not nonsense. This is not make believe. And that's why when you have people who testify in front of Congress who have nothing to lose and nothing to gain, rather, everything to lose, and who are very credible, when they testify that they've seen these things, I'm going to listen to those people with all due respect, instead of people who go on social media and give their opinions. Because an opinion, anybody can have an opinion. Opinion on what? Based on what? Based on facts? No, based on opinion. But when you have a former Navy pilot or a former general or other pilots who testified in Congress that they've retrieved bodies, they've retrieved these spacecraft, I'm going to pay attention to that. Who knows? I will say this. The movie Disclosure Day, I'm sorry to tell you, I was bored. I was just utterly bored. And quite honestly, I found myself, and this is, I think, the best part of the movie. And I told Mr. Producer this, the best part of the movie was the nachos with cheese. I was disappointed. It was not, a Steven Spielberg E.T. or Encounters of the. It was nothing like that. It just thought, what? It just did not. I didn't. It wasn't for me. Now, some of you may love it. For me, I was incredibly disappointed. And maybe I had a different perspective of what the movie might be, perhaps. Maybe that was it. But I walked out thinking, at least the nachos with cheese was good. Yep, Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, I'm going to be doing that eventually, doing a show on that. For those of you listening on podcast, we say good night to you. Mr. Producer, I want to bring you on. I don't know if you're in the background. I am kind of curious about your point of view, because before we wrap this up, I would love to know, what do you think about all these UAPs and these people testifying, and what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear it.
Want me to rant?
Yeah, please. I'd love to hear it.
I think until we get testimony along with evidence, documents provide to back up what we're saying, that's another story. I'm not impressed. Until someone comes forward and they provide declassified material backing up what they're saying. Because otherwise, it's just a story.
But what about people, for example, you have, and I list all these people that are highly advanced, respected military officials, intelligence officers, a former general who actually testified, even an intelligence officer who worked in the Pentagon, who said they have retrieved bodies, they have retrieved aircraft for reverse engineering. They have nothing to gain for this. What about those individuals who testified in Congress? Does that hold any weight for you?
No.
Why?
Again, we need to see some type of evidence that keys into it. I mean, I know people who went to your jump. They approached to testify. John doesn't want to do it. First of all, the presentation, they won't allow a person to skip to a classified setting. John said, if they provide documents, evidence to back up exactly what he's testifying about, he's not going to waste time.
Well, of course, the United States government, if they have evidence, they're not going to release the technology, because then obviously other countries can reverse engineer it as well. So that could be an argument.
It is a national security issue.
It's a national security issue.
Bishop, think about it. If you have these hearings and all these talk, it's interesting. It's fascinating. For the common person, but for people who have been involved with this for decades or a few years, been following this, it's enough. Because we want to see any kind of evidence exactly what we're talking about. It's frustrating.
It is. We would love to see the evidence. And right now what we have is testimony. And the argument is perhaps maybe the testimony is first and then the evidence is next. Who knows?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You make a great point. Based on the credibility of some of these witnesses, if this was in a court of law, would this be enough substantial evidence to win a case? That it is.
I think so the question, for those of you who don't, because it's kind of breaking up the audio. The question is if this was a case, if the testimony was in the court of law, would that be a successful case? I think, based on the fact that you had a general, intelligence officers, former fighter pilots, I think based on the credibility of that alone, and that their testimony is consistent. I think you would have, if you had a panel of 12, I absolutely am convinced you would have at least one person who would say, based on the evidence, based on their credibility, and based on the fact that the testimony are all consistent. It doesn't fight one another. It doesn't negate one another. Actually, it endorses each other's testimony. I think based on that, there will at least be one person that says there's something there. There's something there.
I would also suggest that you look at the connection about science, it's fascinating. Some of these scientists that have disappeared,
yeah,
find them in the wood, next, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then they're all working interconnected on certain projects that are intertwined.
Yes, and we talked about that, and that alone makes you scratch your head and say, "What's going on there? What's going on there?" But
exactly, it almost looks like they're trying to cover up exactly what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Producer, for being here. Everybody, we appreciate all of you guys being here. We'll be here, of course, next week. Don't forget, we'll be here, as always, at 8 p.m. on Friday. Remember, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless, and don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.